So I know all of you may know by now that the Queen has died. She died in her summer home in Scotland, Balmoral. Um, just so you know, I mean, I'm sure many of you are smart enough to know this, but if you don't know, she's not just the Queen of the United Kingdom. She's also the Queen of Canada. She's the Queen of Australia. She's the Queen of New Zealand, Bermuda, Jamaica, Belize, the Bahamas, Papua New Guinea, uh, and a bunch of other places. She was the Queen of Barbados, but they got rid of her sometime last year. Um, this is not going to be a very long video. I will say that, look, many of you who have heard my videos know that I'm not a monarchist, or at the very least, I don't believe that the royal family, the queen or the king now, as he's not King Charles, should be calling himself king of Canada and Jamaica and all these. If you want to be king in the UK. But I will say this, I am sad. I am sad. And, I don't care. I don't care what any of you who might think differently say about that. I'm sure that there are a lot of, people, especially now that, I'm on BitChute, there will be a lot of people who think all kind of crazy things, that the queen is a lizard person and all kind of stuff. I am sad for the simple reason that it seems like something from the old world, something major from the old world is now gone. You know, I, despite what you think of the royal family and all that sort of stuff. And again, I know a lot of people are gonna, ridicule and probably even hit the thumbs down, and that's okay. I couldn't care less at this point. I'm gonna say what I gotta say. Um, the Queen, which is very different from a lot of, especially public figures of today, was somebody who I believe put her country first, put others first, did her duty to a T. I mean, the Queen is a part of a very dying, I would say completely dead generation of persons who were, selfless, who were hardworking, who had very good values, I would say. Um, Put others before themselves, didn't complain. I feel that, especially with the, ever since the baby boomers and now with the millennials, my generation, and going down, hopefully the next generation will probably be a little better. It seems as though we have a lot of generations of weak, whiny, selfish, just very, very discombobulated people. And I feel that the Queen was a very good example of some of the great things of the old world. And now she's gone, and I feel that that's sad. And one of the big things that really started to get me, I mean, I was never a big royal lover. I never really cared too much about all that stuff. And there were times when I was even critical of the royal family and all this sort of stuff. There were a lot of things that I'm still critical of. But ever since what's his Prince Harry married Meghan Markle, and really, really, what's the word? I feel embarrassed the queen and embarrassed the nation. It made me almost feel sorry for the queen, and it made me think, here is this woman who, whatever criticisms you might have and the criticisms I'm going to hear on the comment section, and don't bother writing them because I know all the criticism. I know them all. And right now is not the time for that. So, I mean, you can write it if you want, but, honestly, I couldn't care less. I know there are going to be a lot of people say, oh, well, who cares what a queen? Who cares? Blah, 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 blah. Well, you can say that if you want, but I really couldn't be bothered. So you might as well not waste your time. But here is this woman who was put in this position and who seems to always put her country first, even before her own children, her own grandchildren, before herself. You know, doing all sorts of things for Britain and not just Britain, but even other nations. I think this is the other nations that she is the monarch of. Her work ethic was astounding. I mean, the queen is older than my great grandmother when she died. My great grandmother was 94 when she died. The queen is 96. And the queen, up to the last, working hard, trying to figure out every way to work. I mean, even when her husband died, working, meeting all kinds of people, just never scandalizing her job, never scandalizing the country, not never going out there on public, in the media to complain or to whine or to, do all this sort of stuff. Sorry, ugh, my eyes are burning. Oh, um, you know, doing all the, just a really, really admirable woman from a great generation, which a lot of the people in that generation, the generation before the baby boomers, they've died. A lot of your grandparents have died. My grandparents are dead. A lot of people who served in World War II, they're all dead, and now the queen, and what are we left with? I personally feel we are left with a very spoilt group of generations. I'm not just saying generation, but generations, a very entitled group of generations, a very untidy group of generations, a group of generations that don't really care about country or don't care about work ethic, who don't care about coming together to build something greater than themselves. A very unmajestic, unimaginative, dull, boring generation that we never saw with the Queen's generation. When I hear of people like the Queen dying and, people like, her husband, even though I had my criticism with her husband, some of the things he said about wanting to be a virus and, population control, those are things he had to answer to God for. Whether God forgave him or not, I don't know. But her generation, the generation, when I hear about people who served in World War II, when they die, Bob Dole and all those kind of Ronald Reagan, that old, crispy, very regal generation, people like my grandparents, your grandparents. Wasn't you, do y'all remember, talking to your grandparents? It was so magical talking to them. It was so magical. When I would talk to my grandfather, by the way, my grandfather, he's met the Queen back in the 60s, long before I was born, long before even my mother was born. He met her. He met her in Jamaica. He met her personally. He was a part of the Rastafarian community, and the Queen went on a state visit to Jamaica many, many years ago, and he was honored with a private audience with her. Yeah, the Queen, Buckingham Palace. I wrote to Buckingham Palace, her Diamond Jubilee. Nothing fancy. Just I felt like doing it, and I have the letter somewhere. I can't find it though for the life of me. I hate when these things go missing. But yeah, when I would talk to my grandparents, I would come away from that conversation feeling so amazing. Like, wow, I almost felt like I was talking to God. I know that's blasphemous. I felt like I was in the presence of majesty. And that's why I'm so hurt about the Queen dying, not necessarily because I'm a monarchist, but because such a great personal person, personally, who is such a great example that all of y'all should follow. Instead of sitting there, talking a bunch of nonsense about the Queen being a reptile and all this stuff. And, there are things to criticize the royal family on. I mean, they do border on the globalist. And, I'm not a fan of globalism, but instead of going on your normal heathenistic, barbaric way, I think that, people like, especially people my age, should take something from her, an example from her, you know, I just came back from work. I've been working all day, and I was in classes, and I heard that the Queen died, and and they were, I was on a break, and they were talking about her life and her duty and all this stuff, and it almost made me think, because I knew I was going to say something about this, and it made me think, you know what, man, I'm gonna work even harder. I mean, it's almost like I want to, the Queen is dead, and you know, all this stuff about the great generation is dying out, and we're just left with a bunch of one. I almost want to, to remember her memory by trying to be an example. So I, work harder, at work, at school, stiff upper lip, read, sit up straight, clean myself up a little bit, instead of being all raggedy and, shaggy and stupid and boring and common, be a little regal, like the Queen. I'm not saying I'm a monarchist or royal family, whatever. Blah, 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 blah. By the way, can I say this? I'm happy that Camilla is going to be the Queen consort. There was some talk, I remember, when Diana died, and everybody was so obsessed with Diana, and oh, Charles did her wrong, and this and that, and blah, 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 and Camilla shouldn't be queen. Can I tell you something? I'm glad, out of all of the people in that family, I always thought Camilla was the best. Because unlike Meghan Markle, who is always one, Camilla is even though she's not from the great generation, she's a baby boomer, but she reminds me of the Queen. People, they treated Camilla like a dog. Treated her like a dog, worse than a dog, like a mangy mutt off the street. People called her all kind of ugly names. You wouldn't talk to a prostitute the way some of these people talked about Camilla. And instead of sitting there on Oprah, whining and crying and carrying on, Camilla has always stood by her husband, Prince Charles, now King Charles III, and has never complained. She's always just done what she has to do, and she's not tried to make herself out to be like Diana. She kept her mouth shut and just got on with the country's business and her business, and I admire Camilla for that. All that stuff between Charles and Diana, that's not for me to have a say about. That's a marriage, and marriages go wrong all the time. I don't think Diana was killed by the royal family. I think Diana was killed by the military industrial complex, because she was banning all kinds of dangerous weapons, landmines, and they said, no, we can't have this. That's what I think. But I could be wrong too. But I think Charles always loved Camilla. Always. Before he met Diane, he loved her. And for some reason, he didn't marry her. He married Diana, and maybe he loved her once, and it just broke down, and all kind of stuff happened. He cheat because I don't know. She cheat. That's a marriage. These things happen. The thing that I really admire about Camilla, though, is that, number one, I don't think she's just in it just for herself. I think she really loves Charles. She loves him. She loves him. She's not in it for herself. If she was in it for herself, like some kind of floozy, I'm gonna try and be a home wrecking hoe and break up this marriage and slink her in to be queen, then I would not like her. I don't think that was the case. And I think Camilla has shown great character throughout the times that she's gone through. She's not complained about her treatment. And I think that it's right. She is rewarded by being the queen next to her king. I'm not trying to denigrate Diana anyway, but it's just right. I think it's right. It's good, and all this sort of stuff. So that's what I got to say on that. Anyway, I'm probably lost a lot of people there. I'm going on and on and on, but I did have something to say about this. I said I wasn't going to make a long video, but anyway, that's it. That's all I got to say about this. So the queen is dead. God save the king. I still believe that Canada should not have a foreign British royal as monarch. People, especially older people, think, well, it's our history. Well, it's our history. No, no, it's not your history. First of all, the French are here before the English, and before the French, it was Danish, Vikings, Newfoundland, and before them, it was Native Indians. Yeah, so no, it's not the history. So no, to have the king or the queen from Britain who rarely comes to Canada as our head of state, I think that should change. That should change. But I do think Britain is a better place for having uh, the royal family. If I was British, I would be a supporter of the monarchy in Britain. As it happens, I'm a Canadian. I don't support a foreign, put in someone else. First of all, I don't think there should be a hereditary monarchy in Canada. you know in England, I don't care. I think England is a better place with the House of Windsor. But we don't need to. If we ever were to have a time where we get rid of the British Queen, we don't need to replace it with a different Canadian. No, no, we can have a president or something like that. but I do have to just to say what I feel about the news that I heard about Queen Elizabeth the second. And so just fly away, fly away. The queen is now reunited with her husband, her mother, her sister, her father, her grandparents. They're all united now, and that's it there. And now we have a new king in Canada and in Britain and in Australia, New Zealand, King Charles. We'll see how he does. I know he's a bit of a lot of there are I don't agree with a lot of things that he says. I do agree with his views on modern architecture, but we'll see, and life just goes on. Life goes on. Life goes on. And that's what I've got to say on this. All right, so this is your